Please welcome your Future Film Labs host, MATHIEU Ajan.
How do we turn this on? Hello, everyone. Hello. I didn't have to turn on this mic, so now I'm going to talk with my voice. Welcome to the latest Future Film Lab session. Quick question: whose first Future Film Lab is this? Make some noise. Make some noise. It's a Saturday. We've got to utilise this Saturday. Who's been to Future Film Labs before? Make some noise. Okay, perfect. Who knows what they're here for today? This is a film event, by the way. Everyone know what they're here for? You know what they're here for? Yes. Amazing. Amazing. So today we're going to be talking about production design, costumes, and a world of props. And we've got an amazing panel who will welcome to the stage shortly. But before I start that off, we have a special announcement. If you've been here before, we know we do some special competitions. So there is the opportunity to win a Lacey hard drive. So if you haven't registered for that already, you can register for that outside. And also, you get 10% off at the shop. You showcase your ticket link. And then finally, Future Film Festival is opening soon, so you can actually submit your films. So without further ado, we want to welcome our amazing panel, so make some noise, lots of noise. Make some noise! I think, yeah, this mic works perfectly. Amazing, I love that. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining us on this amazing Saturday. I feel like we look really amazing on that amazing screen. Yellow is my favorite. Oh, was that done on purpose? Aww. I feel like my heart's really broken right now. But I just want to kick off with getting you free to introduce yourselves and telling the audience who you are.
Okay. I'm EMILY BRITTON, and I'm a prop. I work in props. Yeah. I'm ANNA MOULD, and I'm a production designer.
And I'm KIRSTEN BEITH, and I'm Anna's agent, and I have a company called Undercranked, and we look after production designers and directors of photography.
Okay, amazing. Before we kick off, I always like to get an idea of what kind of backgrounds people in the audience come from, because this will really influence the kind of questions you ask. So just put your hand up if you do work in production design. Is that one person? You should sit at the front. This is going to be perfect for you. Put your hand up or make some noise if you're a director. Okay, a couple directors. And then, I'm not sure, producers, hands up. 2 producers. And is there anyone else here that's just something else that they would like to say? If you're not too, you go for it.
Editor.
An editor. Any other editors in the house? 2. You 2 should, connect, bond. But, so I just want to kick off and now just want to ask a bit about your journeys, because the world of production design can be quite a maze sometimes. So how did you get into that career path?
I studied production design at uni, and then sort of did lots of short films, lots of doing everything that in short films because you have to. And then I actually got involved with the BFI through their Future Skills trainee programme and got onto a feature through that. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I didn't go down the conventional route. I studied fashion. I didn't know what I wanted to do before I went to university either. But in the last year of my fashion course, there was a film and illustration pathway, and I had a really good tutor who now works as a director as well. And she taught us about editing and making short films and stuff. So I did that and I really liked it. And then when I graduated, my friend had just started working in production as well. And she was like, oh, I think you'd really enjoy the art department. And I was like, oh yeah, to me that wasn't really an achievable job.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, as soon as I graduated, I was like, okay, I'm going to try it out. And I did some work experience on a feature film and, yeah, just absolutely loved it. And then just started working after that.
Cool.
Well, I had agents of my own who represented me when I was younger and for different things outside of film. And I started Undercranked in couple of years ago, and Anna was one of my first production designers, but I didn't go, like Anna, I didn't go up a traditional route of interning at places like Curtis Brown or Berlin or one of the other agencies. And for me, the art department meant a lot because I did a degree in a very, very long time ago now, but I did a degree in fine art, so it kind of spoke to me a lot. And the art department desk is one of my favourites. And yeah, the production design it's pretty special. And you know, we've now established ourselves and we've done some wonderful films. And I'm an agent.
You connect the dots. I feel like we're going to have some very interesting conversations because she's an agent, but she set up her own agency.
I did indeed.
That's a journey in itself. But Anna, you said something which was quite interesting for me. It felt like the impossible job. So working in the world of production design, and there's one production designer in this audience. So does that mean that there's not a lot of competition? Why is that? Is there a lot of production designers or working production designers?
Yeah. No, I mean, when I say I didn't think it was an achievable job, it's that I kind of didn't, at the time when I was still studying, I didn't realise that was like a, you know, it is a regular job. Like for me, like this is my career and this is what I do. But, you know, it was like, I didn't really know what job I was going to go into. And at school and throughout my education, it was like, that was never really a job when we have careers and stuff. Career days and things like that, no one's ever like, oh, you know, you can be a production designer for film and television. Like that was never a thing for me. So that's why in that sense I was like, oh my god, this is actually a job I can do and enjoy and actually, you know, work for a living doing it.
Okay, so in production design, and the film industry can be amazing itself, but for you all individually, what is a production designer? What does it mean to be a production designer?
They create the world that the film that's been written exists in, and it lends to the tone of the film and so many different things you can convey without having to the actor say something. It's just, you get like a feel of it, a real feel for that.
Yeah, I think when you get sent a script for a film, like sometimes it's very detailed or sometimes it's, you know, hasn't got much detail in it at all, and every production designer will interpret that script completely different and just have their own vision for that film. But once you get into a script, like for me, if I really enjoy a script, I can read it really quickly and I can just see that whole world, and that's like what you want to create on the screen. And it's even, and you know, it's like building characters and telling their backstories that, like Emily said, you know, then they don't it's not conveyed like immediately, so you know, you need these little hints to their world. So yeah, details and things like that is really important.
Okay. You're valid. Come, we want to hear from bring you in.
What? So again?
For you, because from your perspective, I would say maybe let me remix the question a bit.
Designs, yeah, go on.
Because you're agent, so what makes a great production designer?
Well, for me,
what catches your eye?
The production designers, like the directors or like an editor or a grader or whatever, they all have their signature. They're artists, just like a DP and a cinematographer. You can, when you have a talent on your books, you know when it's their work. You know when you can see their palettes. You can see their quirky props. You can, just like with the director. You know. I mean, I'm going to say Wes Anderson because it's a really obvious one, but you know this is a Wes Anderson film. I know, but they shouldn't be a one-trick pony. You should still feel their signature, just like when somebody's, let's say there's a character in a script. You guys would probably put in a palette for his room, and maybe he's an oppressive character. It might be a little bit dark and a few greens, and and the audience, the viewers don't realise, but they have this oppressive feeling whenever they're in his room. There's a signature there, and it's the same for a designer. You know it's ANNA MOULD work, her wonders.
Like that, let's getting big up here.
I know, but and for me, when I see a talent and when I see their work, and it just makes my heart sing, and you know this is a talent who's, and it's the same across the board. It could be a director or a cinematographer, but I think the production design is so important, And I think there's a lot of directors out there and producers who can forget that. You know, you think, oh, well, we'll get the great DP on board, but actually, if you don't, you know, don't cut back on just have a location. Get the designer in who will just make it shine.
What has been some of your experiences collaborating with directors and different teams? Do you feel like you've really got an opportunity to let your voice be heard in the film, or is it almost a dictatorship, or is it very collaborative? Or have your experiences varied? Like, talk to us a bit, some of your experiences working on films.
A lot of the time, a lot of the shorts I've worked on have been very collaborative because you've only got a short amount of time to do it, so you have to really have an ongoing dialogue with the director and the producer to say, we haven't got the budget for this, what about this colour in the room? And it just has to be made fast. I mean, there are some times when the director just doesn't care. They're like, I don't care, do what you want.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing?
Sometimes, but then you sort of want some direction from the director.
That's definitely useful.
Funnily enough. And you don't know when to stop or when to keep going, and it's just, you want a bit of input from them, I think. But again, you don't want too much because you still want to be your own designer. It's tricky. You go.
Yeah, I've had experiences where maybe the director is maybe too laid back on the production design side of things, and they're just like,
just make it look pretty, do you think?
Yeah, and you're like, oh, okay. I mean, that's good that they're kind of like, whatever you do, I'm sure it will be fine. But you kind of want a bit more feedback and stuff, and because sometimes you do want to make sure you're going down the right path before you get too far down there. So. But most of the directors I've worked with, I've had good relationships with. Like on the last feature I worked on, I worked with the director before, and I can feel that he trusts me a lot, and so we do work well together. And it's good that I feel that he has my back, because also that it was a very heavy action-based film, and so it's very heavy male crew and a big male DOP who's done a lot of films and stuff, so it's a bit intimidating for me, but I knew that the director, my opinion was very valid for him, and he really wanted me to so that was a good relationship.
Okay.
I mean, with the directors, and as an agent, you'll get the call from the producer or the line producer, and they ask you to put, do you have someone? And they send you the script. You look at the script, whether it'll who the right talent is. But you will be looking, if the talent hasn't worked with the director before, you'll be scoping out, what's your director like? What kind of character is he? Do we think he'll work well alongside her, despite whether or not their aesthetics are the same?
Yeah.
And luckily with Anna and a lot of my talents, they are working repeatedly with the same directors, and they're building this great relationship. So the film that Anna was talking about was The Courier, with Gary Oldman and Zach, and you work so well alongside him, and those relationships are just so important, because you're building them up. But the production designer should be coming in and working alongside him, but sometimes the director thinks he knows more, which is fine, because the director's a big dog, and that's fine. But when you get that relationship working, that's when you're on the money.
Okay, and so when we talk about relationships, has there been examples where, for example, when you first started your journey, you've been working with directors on shorts and you've gone on to make features together, or is it, are you always working with lots of different people all the time, or do you have the core people that you're constantly collaborating with?
For me, it's mainly the same, very similar people. It's a group of people from uni that we work together, and then we're stuck with them. And then and then another girl I met, another project, we kept going, and she's sort of keeps me in the loop of everything that she's doing, which is really nice. And I think a lot of, in my experience, prop teams work like that as well. So the last job I worked on, all of them had come from another one, so I was new into that team, but we're now on the next job, and I've worked with all of them before, and that's really nice, because you've got a shorthand, and then they can trust you, and they know that you'll turn up to work on time.
And
exactly. Which is really important. So, and it's just important that you'll get hired again.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
Yeah, and it makes the next job so much easier when you've already all worked together before, because it saves so much time, like getting to know how people work. So yeah, and I think, yeah, I mean, most of the directors and other members of film crew that I've worked with, we do kind of always work on the same, especially because I go between features and commercials. So if, you know, at the time I'm doing commercial work, you know, normally, like, if there's another one, it's just all the same crew because you know how you all work. And it's, yeah, it makes it so much better.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think for you guys, your team it's so important that they have this team that they've built up, and you know, so for example, the production designer with the art director underneath them, working or beside them, they're schooling them up to become the production designer and to become you. But I mean, I remember going to see you on set on the last feature, and you saying, I always want this team. This is my team, and that will be negotiated in. Yeah. So when they come along, I'm saying, well, Anna needs her team, and if that team's not on it, we're going to have to renegotiate.
I need you in my life. Negotiate. Yeah. Okay, so you know, you mentioned how you've worked with people that you previously collaborated with, but I'm not sure if you use social media to promote your work. Do you?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say, you know, you've tweeted or Instagrammed some amazing production design stills that you've helped produce, and someone's DM'd you and said, hey, I really love your work. What is the process? How do you vet people to work with? Is it like straight to your agent? Do you have a conversation or meet up for coffee? Like, what is, you know, talk to us, because, you know.
I don't think I'm at that point.
Sure?
In my, I've not, no one's DM'd me.
Look,
So.
please, someone DM her. She's gone.
But I probably think the first step would be, to start a dialogue, or to meet for a coffee, because it doesn't necessarily need to go anywhere, but also you want to see what sort of person they are, and I'd be a bit thrown, but not in a bad way. It's like, why?
I mean, I have to say that I'm not very good at self-promotion on social media, and Kirsten does a lot of it for me.
My assistant does it. My assistant does it.
So, but I am actually getting much better, and
you are actually. You
I'm
really are.
To
she's kind of appearing.
Build my own social media presence, but I have to. Yeah, it is like the best thing you do. Like, and even because I come into the office and Kirsten's like, someone's sent you a message on Instagram, so I'm like, oh, okay, great, and that's. You know, I wouldn't have thought of that as a platform to meet new people and work. I've always just kind of met people on set and then kind of gone through that way. So I think it's a really good platform to meet new people.
Okay, Kirsten, so do you reckon it's made a massive difference? Does it bring in new work?
I actually use Instagram a lot to scout.
Okay.
But there's one thing that I've noticed, and it is actually quite a big faux pas, that people will approach, I'd really like to be rep by you, and you're not going to take someone seriously if they can't even find your damn email address. You know, come on. You know, you need to see their reel, you need to see their work, you need to see their website, you need to see what they're like. Yes, if somebody approaches me, I'm going to look at their Instagram and see who they are. I'm going to look at their Facebook and see, you know, so if you, for example, perhaps have a talent who is being, you know, a lot of people have their Facebooks open and they're being quite aggressive in the way they're talking, or they're dissing someone, or you're not going to touch them. You're not going to touch them. If they're being, it's just not abusive, that's too strong a word, but if they're nobody cares, you know, that you think X and X, you know, just, you know, you can tell a lot about a person by what they put up and how private they are, or how, you know, and you do look there, but I do Instagram, I do a lot of scouting there. I just, you know, you see what the interaction's like. We try and keep our Instagram only about the content and about what we're producing. I know that if we put pictures of us up hanging around Groucho's or Soho House, we'd be so fabulous and fun. But I don't want to be known. I mean, we you know, obviously we hope that we are a little bit. But you know, we want to be. I want people to be coming for my talents because they're talented and they're good people, and they are handpicked. My talents are handpicked, and if there's any, we step aside.
Yeah. That's good. I feel like I'm being inspired to become production designer now. The energy I'm just getting.
But yeah, it's a good. I think it's very important to be have a, you know, people to know you're there on Instagram, and for any filmmaker, Vimeo, you have to have a presence there. Yeah. If you don't, you know, YouTube, well, forget it.
That's you know, like, I've never been asked to send a CV to someone. Yeah. It's always like, have you got a website, have you got a portfolio? So it is all about visuals. So.
Okay.
And the bigger you are, the less likely you are to have a reel. You wouldn't have a show reel if you're huge. Yeah. You know, but with the show reels as well, they shouldn't be too long. They shouldn't be using other, you know, you have to own that music. You know, these are all things that give away that you're green and you're new to the industry. But you know, CVs generally no, they don't have them. Reels sometimes.
Okay.
You know, anyway.
Cool. All right, then I want to talk a bit more. Oh wow, there's a hand. Sorry, mate.
Say that again? I think for me, YouTube, it's covered in, when you go to see a film and you're looking at somebody's content, you don't want ads coming up it's very distracting, and it's about the viewership count, whereas Vimeo is about, this is about how it's been shot, this is about the lighting, this is about the palette. This is about the content, whereas YouTube is about YouTube. There's constant adverts coming up. There's that awful bloody red logo. I hate the branding on YouTube, but that's neither here nor there. You know. What? I can't hear anything. I'm deaf. Sorry.
2 ads before a video now, at least.
Sorry. Sorry, I'm so deaf. I am deaf, actually. You're going to give him a mic, aren't you?
Well, yeah, we've got a mic, so actually, we'll ask you. We'll get a mic.
I thought that was a question. Was that a question?
Was it a question?
No, we just...
No, I think
okay, cool. Well, this is good. This is very immersive.
Sorry.
Like, the audience are interacting. We love that.
If there was a question, put your hand up and get a mic to you so that we can...
Why didn't you organise that earlier? I mean, really?
It is organised, but...
I'm joking.
See, this is the YouTube advert right now, so I'm going to move back into the conversation.
Okay, sorry.
So, just talk to us about the creative, like, give us some tips how to really uplift the project. Like, your experiences developing projects, creating new worlds. Sometimes people might not have massive budgets to you know, for their production design. So, what little things can teams do to really elevate their projects?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah,
I'm going to start just saying people's names because this might just be easier. But, you know, it's a free for all.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked on projects where it is limited budget and you have to be very creative. And I also end up dragging and getting a lot of my family and friends involved. Of like, do you want to come and do some painting and let's do all this? So, yeah, I mean, it makes you more resourceful, if anything, as well. Like when I did Edmund's The Magnificent, we had a very tight budget for that, but we still managed to I really wanted to redecorate the cottage and, you know, add lots of bright colours in there and stuff, and, you know, I think I had a budget of maybe £500 or something. So yeah, that was me running around lots of second-hand markets because I still really wanted to find like interesting, quirky pieces of furniture and you know, all the little detailed bits of dressing and stuff. So you can still definitely do all that. You just have to kind of reach out further than to what you maybe normally would if you had the proper budget.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, charity shops are your best friend, and like eBay auctions, just anything that might help you cut down. Yeah, any favours. I think one film I just used all of them up, and people were driving for me and finding things, and I was borrowing bits of art from my like grandparents' house, and someone was making something, and it was all for free, and it was all. I'm just got to be very, very grateful and not use up all your favours in one hit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything?
Well, Edmund was a really interesting one because she was on a really tight budget, and that the favours is another interesting one because you have to choose your favours in the best way, and also that, and it talks, it's a lot about how you treat people as well. You know, as you come up the ranks, you know, everybody you meet should be treated with the same respect. The runners, the director, whatever, and that's where the favours come in as well. You know, your friends, you don't step on their damn toes. You know, you give gratitude. And but going back to Edmund, she was on Anna was on such a tight budget, and it is one without doubt one of our favourites, and it was this short film about a gay pig voiced by Ian McKellen and with David Bradley, and it was the most extraordinary film. And I remember getting a call from the producer while Anna was filming saying, "Anna's just fucking killing this, it's amazing," you know. And you know what she did was extraordinary, and it's to this day, it was just such a beautiful film.
But
And
again,
and in the meantime, I'm calling her, going, "Don't go into your fee." It's still doing it according to the producer, you know. But you made it work, and it was stunning.
And I think that's because, again, like, I loved the script so much, and I really wanted to make it happen for the director, and he was a director that I really liked working with as well. And so, you know, I just dedicated every minute of the day to it. And you know, whereas there's a scene outside where I wanted loads of like bunting hanging across, because the farmer basically at the end opens the farm for like kids to come and see the pets, and like a mini petting zoo. But I couldn't afford the bunting, so I had to buy fabric and cut it all up and rip it up and tie it. Yes, and I think it took me like 2 days in the end just to make that bunting.
Well, it was worth it.
But yeah, it was worth it.
Okay, I need to watch this film because that sounds like an amazing film.
It really is.
The way you sold it, the way you pitched it, I just want to.
incredible.
Yeah. Okay. I want to talk about the early stages of your careers. So, Kirsten, you started your own agency. How did you get your first client? Like, what inspired you? Why did you start the agency?
Sorry.
Hiring, like, you know, give us some.
Well, I mean, I started as a model, and so I say, somebody said to me recently, you know, I've been networking since I was 16 years old. Well, actually, I kind of pretty much was, but I wasn't intentionally, and that's where I learned about being an agent, just sitting in the agency, listening to my agent talking on the phone. And I was a journalist, I was a producer, and I got into my 40s, and I don't know, I knew I could, and I knew that I kept seeing these incredible films and what these people were creating, and I loved what they were doing, and I wanted a part of it. And then from the art department, I signed an art director or a production designer called Charlie Whiteway, who introduced me to Anna. And this was in 2013, and she's still with me. She hasn't left me yet. But there's still
loyalty. Love it.
But and we started up, and we had no clients, and we were doing a lot of fashion campaigns, and then a lot of music videos, and then the indie features, and it built and it built and it built, and people kept coming to us. But we're kind of different from other agents in that we don't like keeping it. We like our boards to be small. We like we handpick our talents. We look after them absolutely, and a lot of the agencies are broken up into, there'll be an agent who looks after them for the narrative, there'll be an agency who looks after the talents for commercials, there'll be an agency who looks after the music. We look after them, then we manage them, we look after them absolutely. So the talent agent relationship is I mean, it's like a marriage. I mean, it's we're obviously not married.
Right, we understand.
You're very tight. You have to understand what your talent needs, and they have to. You have arguments, and we haven't had any arguments actually. I don't think. No.
Sure.
When Anna's angry because
she's like, all right, we'll talk about this after the session.
But yeah, and and it just got bigger and bigger, and it's my life, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Okay, so Anna, what is the difference between having an agent and not having an agent? How has that changed your journey and experiences?
For me, it's the support there, because it is very scary, like when you're freelance and you're working for yourself, and especially if you're like a head of department and you have to then, you've got a whole team that you want to bring onto jobs and stuff, and so having someone like Kirsten just helps. Like, she's just there for anything that I need, or if I'm having a bad day, or I'm having issue with clients, I know that she's got my back, and then it kind of makes me feel so much better, and then have more confidence to deal with these people that maybe are being difficult and things like that. And it's nice to have someone that wants to promote you and believes in you, when maybe maybe you're like, have a bit of self-doubt or
Yeah.
whatever, and then you've got this person like, you can do this, it's fine. So
I mean, I would negotiate every contract,
Yeah.
every fee. You know, make sure the contract's in place before you go on set. Make sure she's got her team, and these things have to be put into place before she starts the production. But yeah, I mean, there is support, but there's also things like making sure the client adheres to the contract you have. You know, what if they just drop in a pre-light? What if they drop in a recce? She has to be paid for those days, and or what if they're not paying? You know, you're going to take it into.
There has been issues with things like that, and so you know, Kirsten is
Handled
also
it.
amazing.
Yeah,
and
you kind of go to court at that point.
This is
Basically.
beautiful.
But, you know,
I'm envying like this relationship. Seriously. Okay.
apparently we argue though. I mean,
Do you know if we would nobody are coming
Didn't
over.
say we argue.
It's all coming out now, live on BFI. Wow. So Emily, so when you started your journey and you was involved in the BFI, what was it like prior to that as well? So you talked about the world of calling in favours, and I feel like we can all discuss this because sometimes money is something that's, you know, it's almost like a dirty word. But would you say that when people are starting their careers, they do need to work for free to get themselves out there? What's your perspective on?
I think so, yes. But I did a lot of free work, not because I didn't think I didn't need to be paid, but I was just, a lot of time it was with friends, so it was, and it was the same people over again. It's like, yeah, of course, I'll work with you. I love working with you. I want to make it, and if this is my only opportunity, fine. I don't need to get paid. But also, I was still just out of uni, so what did I know?
Yeah.
They're not, yeah. And I think by accepting the jobs that you don't get paid on, you meet so many other people that can take you on to your next one, and you can get onto a job that will pay you, and that's really nice.
Okay. Just to play devil's advocate, how do you break the cycle? So for instance, maybe everyone else in the crew is getting paid and they've just noticed, you know, she'll agree to do it for free. How do you battle that?
That's a good question. I haven't, in my experience, as far as I know, we were all like not getting paid, or we were getting paid, and I think it's something you probably have a quiet word with the producer about, and just have a discussion and say, I've noticed that this is, you still need to like fight for yourself.
Yeah.
But also don't be afraid to say, if you really want to work with the team and on the film, just do it.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
You all on the same page? You agree
Well,
with that, Kirsten?
I think that as the agent, you are strategizing, and you know, I do think that you should do, if the script talks to you and if the visuals are great, then yes, and if the leads are strong, if the director attached and the production company are strong, then you're looking at the hooks for the free work. Why are you doing it for free? Why aren't they kickstarting it? Why aren't they finding the money? Why? But if you're starting out, yes, you should be, because you should be getting that experience. But with the talents, we definitely will be sitting down saying, okay, we're going to, because you're strategizing how to get their fee to
Yeah, to the
X
place.
amount a day from this. So you'll be saying, well, okay, we'll look at doing, I mean, I remember when you were doing, Anna was doing, she was doing features back to back, and it came to a year when I was like, listen, let's do commercials this year, and we agreed, and we said, okay, unless a really good script comes in, we won't do any features. Just to make sure people, like, you know, because she's, you know, Pulse or whoever her clients are, you know, you wanted to make sure you were still in the room, but you know, you have to strategize these things, and I think when you're starting out, there's no strategy. You're just going, just take everything, you know, take any old short film. Don't take any old short film, because half of those scripts are utterly worthless, and you will never see them again.
Yeah.
Scope it out. Look at the director's work.
script.
Look
Make
at
sure you read the
Read
script,
the
guys.
script.
you know,
It's always
read the
useful.
damn script. And if it's shit, don't touch
Shit.
it. If you don't get past to page 2, it's not going to work. You know?
Okay. So, in the world of being a production designer, is there a community? How do you train as a production designer? How do you develop your taste? What practices do you do? Do you go like exhibitions? Like, talk to us a bit about how you develop your crafts.
Yeah, well, I guess for me, because I didn't study like Emily in production design, so I've literally learnt everything on the job, and so assisting other production designers, just watching how they work and their methods, and they all have their different ways of working as well, and so that was really interesting. So I kind of like pulled everything I've experienced together, and then I obviously, you know, have my own styles and influences, and then so it's like just merging all of that information to make it work. But then there are, you know, you have to learn how to break down a script, and you know, manage all the different departments within the art department and budgeting and things like that. You can't just kind of like try and wing all that stuff.
Yeah.
You do have to learn it a little bit. And, you know, I did short courses as well for technical drawing and things like that, and model making. So, yeah, a bit of everything.
Okay. Emily?
Yeah, I think topping up no matter what your background is, I think topping up your education and doing short courses like technical drawing or model making. I went on one for props, and that was like a 4-day course by Talking Point, who I really recommend. They're really good. And I think it was at Shepperton, and we learned everything from like breaking a script down as a prop master, doing some standby, knowing what stores is and what you do when props come in and how they go back, and just being able to hang up a picture, because in dressing you need to be able to hang a picture frame and put stuff on the windows. It's just little things that a prop master might be like, oh, you know that's really handy, I'll have you. And I think that's continuing your education here and there is really important.
Okay. Kirsten, I want to talk a bit more about the agency side of stuff, because you mentioned in terms of pushing some of your clients towards the commercial work rather than the features.
Well, this is, go on, sorry, finish the question.
How do you find that balance of, 'cause, you know, a lot of artists need their creative fulfillment as well, and sometimes the commercial work can just only bring the finance. How do you balance that for your clients as well?
It's quite an interesting time at the moment, because the industry is very much in flux, for obvious reasons. And what was also changing outside of the economic climate and the structure of advertising agencies and whatever, so there's boring guff stuff, but the talents I'm finding, you know, Anna is a narrative talent. She has a lot of TVC commercials work. A lot of the talents want to work in both, but you know where that Anna she's drama. Yeah. That's what she does, but she can walk into a set and do the McCallans or Glenfiddich and design it beautifully. And the commercials work is big money. The indie features, they're probably sometimes they're making it in a week what they're making in a day on a commercial. And you have to listen to your talent. If they want to be, sometimes they don't know whether they're going to go into others, but you can smell it. You're like, you're going to go into fashion, you just know, don't you? You know, you have to go with what your talent wants. I mean, Anna and I actually had a discussion about it recently, and we were talking about narrative but the narrative, you know, with the features, the arc is so long. You get a script, it's in development for God knows how many years, and then they're getting the money for it, and then finally, 10 years later, it's made. And it's fabulous, and everybody forgets that it's taken like 10, you know, because we do have scripts that we're working on and we're developing, and we've got producers, and that's completely outside of Undercracked as an agency. And I'm really excited about those, but it's just stuff, we have them because we know they're going to take ages, and they're scripts we believe in. You know, but I don't, you know, I look after one script writer, but that's purely fluke. It's just somebody came to me and they had a script, and I thought, ooh. And then we ended up having a co-producer and you know.
Okay, amazing. What is a day, you know, what is a day like in the office for each of you? Like, just describe, it's Monday morning. Mondays are boring days, actually, so Tuesday or Wednesday. What is a day like in the office? And, you know, freelancing as well, how do you find that balance, keeping organised? Like, don't miss anything out. You wake up in the morning, you have your Weetabix. Like, talk us through it.
So, the last job I was on, I'd get up.
It's always useful.
Get to the studio where the stores were. Sometimes they're quite far away from each other. But luckily, this was on site. Go and have some breakfast. And then it depends what sort of time of the production you're in, because at the beginning you've got the buyers buying lots of things as options to go into the sets. If it's in the middle of shooting, you might have hires coming in, or they came in yesterday, you didn't have time to check them in, so you check them all in. Or you're sending loads back, you're writing return notes and putting them on the van, or you're unloading a van, you're taking them to the set for the dressers to dress the set. It's quite busy. It's really nice when you're in the swing of things, being really busy, for stores anyway, for me. And then you just sort of go home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I'll describe my day last Friday,
Yeah,
which
Friday
was
night.
because I had I just did a commercial for a cleaning product.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the shoot was on the Monday, and so the Friday before was a very hectic, chaotic day, because I basically spent time sourcing and creating the mood boards and designs for what our location, it was dressing a location, but then getting a client sign off the night before, so then having to run around on the Friday to get everything, pull it all together. So I spent the day finishing up 3D mock-ups on the computer. I then had to go out purchasing food and things like that for dressing on the Monday. I then also had to spend time, the client didn't like the way the actual cleaning gel looked.
Oh, wow.
So I had to spend the afternoon looking for a substitute
Yeah.
that could come out the bottle as
Okay.
instead of
So it wasn't
the
a real
cleaning
the
product.
client didn't like the actual,
So
the
no,
actual
so
products.
we actually used hair gel
Okay.
for the
Did
cleaning
you?
product. Yes. So yeah, that, and then the whole time, I'm being chased by people for all these different things. So it gets very, very manic.
Okay. Kirsten, what about yours?
Me, I get up at a stupid time. I get up about 5:45 or 6:30, and then I get into the office and at 7:30, 8, and I go through my emails and I get them ready to hit send at 9, and then my assistant comes in and we sit down and we go through the jobs that are happening and the ones that are happening the next day. We make sure that we've got the contracts in. And then the day starts and the jobs will be coming in, and I'll be approached by, say, Agile or Pulse or whoever the client is, and they'll say, do you have a production designer? Or, we've got this great new director, who would, and I'd call them and say, what's he like?
Yeah.
And they'll tell me, and I'll think, and I'll look at his work, and so if on one job by job, and I'll be thinking, this is kind of Anna. I think she's going to, and then I'll put them up, and then, chasing, do you want to move forward with this job? At the same time, you're negotiating stuff, so you'll be on the phone, saying, look, he goes out for X amount, and could you look at your budget? And and you're locking. So my days, the only structure is at the beginning of the day, and it's just ad hoc all day long. But it's you're just negotiating all bloody day long, negotiate, and also you really are, and talking about money and locking down the money and making sure the money's in, and and saying I'm afraid this just isn't going to happen. We need more money. If you want her, you need.
Yeah, you got to pay the worth.
I think that's a good thing about having an agent. It takes out the personal thing of if a talent's coming and saying, oh well, I won't work for X less than X. But if your agent's saying, I'm afraid she doesn't really tend to do anything for less than this now, but let me put it in front of her.
I love the way you're wording it. I need to make a note of these. The way it sounds
you have to
perfect.
be diplomatic,
And how do you balance? Has there ever been a time when the office is quiet? There's not enough work. Like Anna, you're like, Kirsten, what's
really
happening? I've got bills to
Yeah,
pay.
I'm just
What's
nagging
going on?
her
Where's
like,
the-
what's
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
on? Or I just come and
Yeah.
sit in the office.
Yeah,
and be
I
like,
like
I'm
to come
here.
in.
Can you?
You get some work. So do you have to go out and actually bring in new clients as well? What is that? Yeah.
Yeah, you're constantly reaching out. There's a huge market from Europe. There's Berlin, Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Hamburg, Munich. There's a lot happening. Barcelona, incredible amount of talent, and then Eastern Europe. My God, the talent that's coming out of there and the work. A lot of productions are happening in Bulgaria now. Because budgets are being squeezed over here as well. They're happening. Everyone's just going off and shooting over there. But you're constantly reaching out to people. But I'm not a believer in a hard sell. There's nothing worse than that sort of used car salesman.
Yeah.
Like, please use us. No. You know what? We're here if
this
you
is
want
what
us.
we do.
Come
If
on
you're
over.
interested, check it out. That's good. Okay, so I guess you all work with lots of different people and collaborators. Like, what are common mistakes people make? So, for instance, Kirsten, when someone actually approaches you to join your roster,
Yeah.
or for you both, when you're working with directors, what are pet peeves that they do, and what really makes you smile when you're working with collaborators? It's a happy question.
Yeah, I'm trying. I can't really think of anything that gets on my nerves with
that's
people.
it.
It's only I kind of have a lot more positive experiences with directors, which is good, I guess. I don't know. I guess it's when people expect the world but they only have a
50
small
quid.
budget. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's champagne on lemonade
Yeah.
budget. So, and that's when you still have to try and be like, well, look, this is only what's achievable. You can't just be like, yeah, okay, yeah. You can't just agree to everything if they're not going to, try and help you out. And sometimes people just don't understand that. It's like, well, why can't we do this? Because you can't.
You don't
afford
have any
it.
Emily,
Um,
if you've got any dark experiences, you can feel free to share them.
dark experience.
Or positive ones, balance.
I think when you're on quite a long shoot, I think the difference, like in morale, like having people around you who are happy to come in. Maybe happy is not maybe the right word, but they're going to come in and not be, oh, here again. Why am I here? Because there are some days when you cannot get your mood out because it's middle of January and it's freezing and it's raining and you're doing the same thing for the past 6 months. It's really hard. But people who make a joke and just a little bit lighter, and it's just, that's really nice to be around because you're like, oh, it will end. Thank God. Because there are some people who just go on and on and on. You're like, I can't be around you anymore.
Just be a nice human.
Being nice, being polite. And just pulling your weight as well, because sometimes you see you're sitting down again. Cool.
Right.
Great.
Yeah, I think
like standing
there's
up.
certain departments as well that moan a lot more than others.
We'll spill the beans.
The art department is generally a happy department.
No, it's true. Yeah.
Kirsten?
For me, I mean, for you guys, I would get the call saying, and I might make a call saying, what's going on, But for me, the most difficult thing is probably people being unpleasant for no reason other than they're not getting their own way, or they're being naive and they're coming in. So you get a young producer who comes in and says, well, why are they being paid this amount? And it's like, well, that's neither here nor there, and it's not really your business in a way. Well, it is their business because it's their budget, but coming in all guns blazing on the aggression because they don't really know what they're doing. It'd be better to just come in and say, listen, I haven't actually line produced something before. Could I ask your advice? We really want to work with Anna, and I'd say, well, send me the script. Don't worry about a thing. Just give me a call, and if you're concerned, I'll tell you. But then the second bit is when you say, I'll help out, and then they just suck, and you're getting calls all day long, and you're like, this is what I get paid for. You can't keep calling me. But your doors should be open. But I think just people being unpleasant and stepping on toes and forgetting that you should. If there's something I hate, it's people who treat the juniors with disrespect because they are juniors. No. These juniors are the seniors of tomorrow. These juniors are the people who are going to hire you eventually. Do not disrespect them. Treat them. If they're being disrespectful to you, then tell them to leave. Get another. You get another runner or whatever. But I have had runners being disrespectful towards me, and it's been funny because you're watching it thinking you don't actually realise I'm Anna's agent.
Don't know what's going on. You don't need to
but that's okay. Don't worry. You'll find out.
Cool. I'm going to ask one more question. Throw it out to the audience, so prepare yourself. I've done that on purpose. But who are some of your favourite directors or some films that you've watched and been like, wow, this is so beautiful? Like, what's inspired you recently?
I watched the last episode of The Virtues last night. I don't know if anyone else has watched it, but there was a scene in the final episode. It's really bad practice. I don't know who is the designer on it or the set decorator, but it was just, I watched it and I got such a reaction from it. Just, wow, look how awful that room is, but in a really great way, when it's just so dilapidated and like, can you believe someone's in that room? And it's just when you get like a feeling in your gut, you're like, wow. That's the most recent because that stuck in my mind.
There's a lot of things I watched and was like, oh, I wish I'd have worked on that. It just looks amazing. I was read it because I've watched it as well. Umbrella Academy.
Oh yes, it was excellent.
Which I loved, and then there was actually an interview with the set dec from that as well. So I was reading that the other day, and that was really interesting just to hear their processes as well, how he works with the production designer as well, because it's it's the same. They just had a lot more time and money, and you know, he was speaking about building all their worlds, and each because there's the individual kids and they all get adopted into this house, and they each have their bedrooms, but they, you know, it's identifying their own character in each room. But he was saying it's also like the stepmom who's a robot, as though she just went out to the store and kind of bought the things that she thought was a traditional boy and girl's room. So it's like a mix of those two. So it's just, yeah. It's
And
really
to check these both out, I feel
interesting
really naughty because I haven't watched them. I work in the
yeah.
film industry, so don't worry. I will add them to my watch list.
Yeah.
Me, I was really late to the party on this one, but I just films like Shape of the Water or City of Lost Children that really like, you know, you can really feel the. But then recently I watched something and I can't for the life of me remember what it was because I switched it off quite quickly. The design was so good. Yeah. That I didn't give a shit about what was happening on the screen with the actors, which is why but it was so strong. Yeah. And it was something quite big, but it was so strong. I was thinking, and that's another thing with production design, you want it to be subconscious, but still have that signature. But yeah, I mean, there's some incredible things out there. But then, and that brings you to budget as well. You know, I mean, I represent a production designer who is up for an Emmy at the moment. Oh no, he's up for a nomination of an Emmy, and he worked on a huge TV series, very well-known TV series, huge. But I remember calling him saying, I can see the challenge on the budget here. I actually, you know, it was so obvious that, I mean, it was broadcast on the BBC, and you know, and that's awful when that happens. It's so, but he's still up for an Emmy for it, so it's not that bad.
As long as he gets his Emmy, as long as he wins it. So I'm going to throw it out to the audience if there's any questions. I think someone just stroked their hair so I don't make eye contact. But that gentleman, can we have a round of applause for this guy? The first, come on. Don't be too scared to clap. You're a legend, mate. I love you.
Sorry.
Oh, it's not a question. Oh.
Hi. Okay. I was wondering if you feel you have to have an agent as a production designer, or you know, because I didn't really think that was a thing until now. But that's really cool. But I don't know.
You won't move forward without one.
Okay.
There are clients who will not book unless you have an agent.
Yeah.
They're not interested in touching talents unless they do. And you know, but you reach a certain point in your career where your work has to be managed. You know, you've got multiple films going on, and you know, but you know, as a designer, you're going to design. The agent does the other stuff. But no, you would need some once you reached a certain level of your career for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
You know. What do you think about that? No.
You laid the foundation pretty strong, so it's like...
No, I have a lot of friends who are also production designers, and they don't have an agent, and they're fine with that. But for me, it's only a positive thing. So I don't know. I know both sides. So.
Emily?
Yeah, I don't know many people who have an agent. But again, I'm still sort of pottering along and just finding my way. So maybe a couple of.
Because you can reach a certain point of your career and be happy doing that. You know, it depends. It depends if you want to get to LA. Do you want to go to Hollywood? Do you want to be doing indies or blockbusters? You will not. You know, you're not going to get people who are shooting. The production designer of Mission Impossible, they have an agent.
Yeah.
The production designer of, I don't know, a Stormzy video or something, they might not, and they might be happy with that. You know, that might work for them. Everyone's different, you know.
Cool. Question over there, 3 questions. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
We're just passing the mic, so there's awkward silence. So guys, we should play some music in between this.
Hey guys.
Teamwork.
So this is more of a question that seems to be with you three, and that is with the fact is if you guys have ever dealt with reshoots specifically, more or less like what is your experience with it? Did you have like a pleasant experience? Was it something where like you were busy with another project and you were called back? It's just generally what was your experience if you've ever done a reshoot before?
Yeah. Yeah, I have recently actually. I was working on a feature called St Maud as the set dec, and we had to reshoot a lot of stuff, and it was actually quite tedious going back around the prop houses and having to find every single thing that we used. And there was quite a few things that we just couldn't find, and we ended up like having to just completely get remade, and it turned into quite a big job for a week of reshoots. But yeah, I mean, we did it, so it was okay.
How does that work in the agent side, reshoots?
Well, we try and, I mean, that's going into the money thing. I mean, with the standalones or the reshoots, I try and negotiate them so that the guys go on. But then sometimes, I mean, we did a animated feature, a huge animated feature, which was shooting for maybe 10 months a couple of years ago, and it wasn't a happy place. And my talent didn't want to go back for the standalones, so I had to just say no, he's not available. But you know, they're a necessary. You always have a couple of standalones after a feature, for sure.
Do you always get any feedback from directors? Do you get like any feedback
Me?
from directors?
Yes. Yeah, and yeah, I always make a phone call and see how they've got on. But there's always a conversation. If, you know, I mean, the worst one is when you get a call that says, you know, they were stroppy or, you know, and generally, it's only happened once actually, so thank God. But generally it's calls saying they've been incredible. It's good I think it's good to have feedback. It's good to have a call and say what happened, what went wrong. And also it's good, you need to do that with your talent as well. What happened? They were difficult, or I just, you know, I think, I remember one thing they do with the art department when the more junior producers, they'll sometimes come to you and say, this is the art department budget. And I'll go, well, it's your art department budget. What am I supposed to do with that? How much do you want to pay my talent? And I remember us having this conversation and you saying, we can't do this anymore because it's kind of unfair. But then with the features, you'd expect the HOD to break that budget up.
Yeah.
But it is quite frustrating sometimes because it's quietly squeezing into what you should be paid a day. But yeah, you should always, there should always be a conversation afterwards, I think. Because who knows, you need to know what they need and what you need, what everyone needs. And if you don't talk, you don't know.
Cool. There's a question in that area. Is the mic being distributed? Oh, nice.
Yeah, no, it was, I actually don't think this is working. I don't know. Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
It was about, I was just like hoping you guys could like elaborate a little bit more about the kind of transition from, say, like shorts to features, because it seems like there's a little bit of a kind of chicken and egg situation where you maybe, like, if you're at a point where you've been collaborating with friends and you've been doing small projects or whatever, and then it's like, well, you want to be taken more seriously and do something bigger, but then how do you go about finding a team you can bring with you to actually be able to do that work at the level that's required, kind of thing. And also, if people are looking at your work and they're saying, oh, well, you've done some great work on shorts, but you haven't done a feature yet, so why would we hire you? But then it's like, you know, how do you, you know, go about kind of pitching for that business when you think you might be like ready to kind of go to the next level?
Well, I don't know. For me, I guess I worked on a lot of features as art director, so that was my kind of how I built up my feature experience. But then I wanted to be a designer, so I've always done like shorts and things like that because I always want to build up my narrative work. So then I kind of did both, and to then go into that crossover. And then when a feature came in, I felt I could deal with it, and I had my team that I'd kind of met through art directing and designing smaller jobs, and felt that we could make it work, and then got the first one out the way, and then that was it.
I was quite lucky because I got on my first feature via the BFI Future Skills trainee programme. But then I also, after having a little lull, I went on that props course, and the prop master on that sort of took a few people with him onto his next project, which was, it was a TV show, but it lasted like 8 months, and we're on a feature now. So I think it's making like more connections. I know that's really annoying to say, but It's just sort of finding the right people who might just take you with them onto a feature as an assistant in whatever capacity, like role you want to play, not role, not category, department, there we go.
Okay.
And just sort of assisting and just, or running, I don't know, just not hanging on, but do you know what I mean? Just because, it's really difficult to be part of a team that are making shorts and then being like, let's make a feature. Oh, we need a budget. We haven't got a budget. It's really hard, but I think just, what am I saying? Find people that might be able to take you with them, maybe.
Yeah, very much so.
I feel like sometimes I talk to different people and everyone kind of has slightly different descriptions of how they describe all the various roles, and I'm just wondering if you could just kind of give your take on the kind of distinction between the work you did in art directing versus production design.
It was, so as art director, I'm kind of more responsible for the construction side of things. But with some of the designers that I've worked with, because they were quite small budget films, so we didn't actually have a separate set dec role, so I would be doing art direction and set dec, and it was always the set dec side that I enjoyed more, and the designing of things, which is why I definitely knew I wanted to kind of be designing, and so now I definitely wouldn't want to be an art director again. But I have an art director who I always use now, and she's like clearly an art director, and she's very good at her job, and she like thrives off it, and she loves doing all the construction drawings and like organising everyone, and she's just great at it.
And she's an FTS,
yeah,
well trained.
Yeah.
Did you both go? Did you go to film school? Was that a part of your?
Nope. I did film production. And then sort of in the first year they cover like directing and editing and sound and camera. I was like, oh, I'm not very good at any of these, that's cool. And then the second year we got to specialise, and I did production design. I was like, this is something I can do. However, the technical drawing side and model making I was not good at. Lots of tears before that was handed in. So I sort of realised, okay, that part of production design isn't for me, that umbrella. What can I do that I am kind of good at? And that turned out to be props and that area of things,
Okay. I think there was another question floating just there.
Hi. So I'm basically at a position where I've just finished uni sort of studying production design, and I've sort of got experience doing sort of short films and stuff like that, but would you say it's more worthwhile to take sort of like a lower role in a bigger production, or to sort of like continue down the short film path, sort of from your personal experiences?
That's another thing. So with my art director who works with me now, she went to NFTS, did the production design course, graduated, and she worked as like an art department trainee and assistant on, really, really big films, which, she says is also a really good experience, and you're on them for a long time, but it takes so long to kind of work your way up, and now she loves art directing, the kind of indie or slightly less budget films, because she's so much higher up and she's like doing what she really wants to do. I don't know, I think there's positives in both. It depends if like what kind of area you want to go into within the art department, or I don't know if you want to do drafting and stuff. That's always good to get on the big films and be in that world. But it's up to the individual, I think.
Sure. Any further questions?
Emily, I was wondering how you got on the Future Skills. Was it the Future Skills thing?
Yeah, I think it's quite a mouthful. I think it's that. So I applied, I think it was September of like 2015. I was in a job that I really didn't enjoy. So I was looking, I think I was just spending time on Twitter and saw this advert, like filmmakers, like 18 to 24, and I managed to fit in that, like bottom end, like really top end of that. Was it? Yeah, 24. So it was a residential course, so you made a film in like 4 days and stayed with the people you were making it with. So that was really cool. And I met one of the directors that I work with now. I shared a room with her and we kept going, which has been really nice. So that's really cool. Because I did that, I was able to apply for this Future Skills, and it was all very, oh, it's going to be a feature and you can work on it. And it's like, great, it'll be a feature that no one will see and it'll be really tiny and fine. But that's really cool, I get to be on this feature. And then I went to an interview, big application process, like 9,000 pages of why you want to be there, which I did at another job. And then that turned out to be, I ended up at an interview at Pinewood, getting very lost, but it was Han Solo. They did a big collaboration with Lucasfilm, which was really cool. So yeah, it was just sort of, I think it was quite a lot of luck, which doesn't help an advice at all, but I think it was the right place, right time, clearly, and yeah, just being able to, just going for things, I think, and just applying to whatever, because what's the worst that can happen is
Quick question for Noel. Is there any schemes that exist? Does that scheme still exist? This is Noel, by the way. He works in education, BFI. Hello, everyone. Is there?
I mean, the Future Skills training course is the thing to apply for. So BFI kind of have a relationship with Lucasfilm and Disney at the moment, and we might have just taken on some new recruits. So yeah, Shall I grab that mic?
Okay, I was just going to say also, yeah, so once you've done that film, because I kind of want to apply for that when I come out of uni, and yeah, was it a really like smooth progression from that film onto other ones? Like, did you meet people straight away, or was you said there was a bit of a lull or something? And
yes, so I did a bit of prop making and a bit of set dec, and I still keep in touch with a few people from set dec and prop making actually. But I had a bit of a lull because I was learning how to drive in that, which is very important. Like anyone will tell you,
have to have
Get your license, guys.
Yeah, do it now. It took me a little bit longer than I anticipated, but then suddenly, like in September last year, I got a text from one of the charge hands in props, and they said, "Are you free? We need you for a couple of weeks on episode 9." So I think definitely keep those. And I was there, they say a couple of weeks, you're usually there for like a month and a half or 2 months because everything keeps going and runs over. But yeah, and it sort of kept going from there, really.
Cool. Do you want a mic, Noel? Do you want it? There you go.
Yeah, so just to say, look at the BFI Future Skills traineeship. They're every year we have one or two big feature films that you can apply to go on. The other place to probably have a look is Screenskills website, formerly Creative Skill Set. They'll have traineeships and opportunities and things that you can apply for there, and good advice on courses and stuff like that. Can I ask a quick question to Kirsten? If somebody was hoping to maybe find an agent as a...
If somebody was hoping to.
Yeah. Well, how do you maybe go about trying to find an agent?
Well, I have to admit, we now tend to take people by reference only. But the best way is to keep an email short, send us your site. Don't go on for... Note that none of them are going to read an email that's 200 words long. Mm-hmm. All they need to see is, "Hi, I'm reaching out. I'm interested in getting an agent. Here's my reel. Here's my website." But don't approach them on LinkedIn or Instagram, or approach them by their email or by their assistant. Don't call them up either. They won't speak to you. They'll just be, they're on the phone all bloody day anyway, so they probably won't, but just reach out, get their email and reach out and say hi. Same way that you would with a director, you'd quietly, we can't approach directors because they have agents. Mm-hmm. We have to approach their agents or their production companies, but you guys would reach out and just say, "I really love your work," but do not approach an agent unless you're not, you want to be with that club. If you like the production designers or the directors or the DPs they have on their books, then chances are you might fit in.
Is there a resource or a website or a list where you can find out which agents do look after people
to go for? Well, Google is the best thing, as always. But I think reading the industry press, if you're a cinematographer magazine, you know, if you're in advertising campaign shots, you know, all of these magazines, then you'll see the names pop up. A website, I mean, the big agencies are going to be on things like Mandy or, you know, APA is quite a good one. They have a few people listed. I don't know if there is. There should be, really, shouldn't there?
Just make one.
You make one, and well, you know, maybe we should. But yeah, I mean, I think you look at their boards, you look at their stables, and you think, oh, do I, you know, is this, or you work alongside, you know, Anna working underneath it, you know, when she started working underneath the HOD, the production designer, you start those relationships, and essentially, because I'm looking at her art director, thinking if Izzy stays in art department, then, you know, maybe she'll become a production designer. I would sign her in a heartbeat. You know, she's incredible. Cool. Not to squeeze anyone. but you know, that's the idea. But you don't go to them before you're ready. You should have enough work, because your agent isn't your employment agency. They're your manager.
Cool. And come Future Film Labs, and you might meet an agent as well. Kind of set you up there. No, nothing. It's all right. Cool. Any final questions? It doesn't have to be a final one. I don't know what time is. I'm not great at timekeeping. 3 minutes, cool. Okay.
This is a question for Kirsten. Well, what was the moment or like event where when you decided then that you needed to represent like production designers?
Represent Anna?
Yeah, like people like Anna. What was like the moment where you just went like, yes?
It's no one like Anna, by the way.
Oh my God, this is quite a long story. I mean, anyway.
There are other people on Kirsten's books. It's not just me.
I remember, I knew I was an agent, and my trail to becoming an agent was I went round the houses, and I was a very late bloomer in the way that I was in my mid to late 40s by the time I realised I was an agent. And we were a diary service first, and a feature film came in. And I will never forget this. This feature came in, and I really didn't know my ass from my elbow, but I was just following my heart. Yeah. And this feature came in, and I remember getting the script and thinking, fuck, I don't know what I'm doing. Telling my talent, who's still with me, and it was shooting in Ibiza. Feature films are always invoiced as weekly invoices on 7-day payment terms. I don't know, I'm sure most of you know this, or well, you may not, but whatever. I didn't know this, and I negotiated the money as half up. I just didn't trust these people. Yeah. Something in me said, so I negotiated it as half up front and halfway through. Mm-hmm. The producers must have been thinking, she's confident. Yeah. I didn't actually know what I was doing, but I just went in with this. The money hadn't come in before my DP was flying to Ibiza in the morning. And he was going to a PPM, a pre-production meeting, and I called him and I said, don't get too close to these people because they haven't made payment, and you can't get on the plane unless they do. At 9 o'clock that night, I got a call from the producer, not the line producer, saying, Kirsten, would you mind if we paid you in maybe a little bit now and a little bit in a few days' time? And I remember just saying, absolutely not. We have a contract in place and we require payment as invoiced 2 weeks ago. Oh shit, I don't know where I'm going to get this money. And I was like texting my DP saying, if you want all the money now, we can have it because there's some red flags here. And I said, well, you know, there's some serious red flags for us now. And I said, if the money hasn't cleared in our account within the next half hour, I'm afraid you don't have a DP tomorrow. And I said it so calmly, and I remember this
I'm scared.
feeling.
I'm scared right now. I'm just like,
but I remember this feeling, thinking, I felt so angry that, you know, how dare you? We have an agreement. This is my talent. Respect them. But I did it in a really diplomatic way, and I knew. But the other point was Edmund, and I remember the producer. I was in Shoreditch House doing an interview, and Benedict Turnbull, the producer, walked past, and Anna was on a feature at the time, and she had called me saying, I've got to have the film, I've got to do this gay picture film, I've got to have it. And Ben walked past, and I barely knew Ben at that point, and I ran up to him, and I stopped him, and I was like, Edmund, and he went, yeah, Kirsten, and I went, Anna, Anna is the only one for this. And he went, well, she's certainly in the running. And I went, fuck the running, she's the only one for this. And Anna got the film. And I remember sitting down after that thinking, this is what I'm here for, I'm an agent. Which sounds so naff, doesn't it? I know it sounds really naughty.
It's a beautiful story, gay pigs.
Those were the two moments. They were moments. They were absolutely moments.
Okay, cool. If there's no other questions, we're going to end it on that beautiful moment. Just give the amazing panel a round of applause, please. This is the part where I have to, say our goodbyes because we're moving on to the next section. No one ever leaves the stage when I say, but no, thank you.
Yeah, we've got like a 15-minute break and then come back in here for part 2.